And so, my fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country.
Welcome to the Politics, Prepping, and Paranormal Podcast.
Flippity jibbity nonsense.
I thought it was terrific.
It's not just big, it's yeah.
Let's go.
Welcome, and thanks for listening to the Politics, Prepping, and Paranormal Podcast. My name is Jeff Morey, and I'm your host. This week, I'm excited to bring you one of my very long-anticipated shows. I've been teasing this one for a while, and I think along with UFO disclosure, it is one of the most important topics that is rarely discussed by design in this context. I'm talking, of course, about AI. Artificial intelligence. Over the last decade, AI has quietly become an important part of our daily lives, whether you realize it or not, and it's just about everywhere. Don't believe me? Well, if you use Google, Alexa, or Siri, go to the grocery store, do online banking, or really any banking at all, use social media, or even just go for a drive in your car, you're probably actively using or engaging with some form of artificial intelligence. These days, you will be hard-pressed to find any business or government agency that doesn't utilize AI in one form or another. Yes, AI has quietly evolved to a level that I think 99% of Americans do not yet realize. I personally believe that AI is one of the absolute biggest existential threats to our civilization as we know it. And while I'm awake to the frightening possibilities and capabilities that AI currently possesses, I am admittedly not a tech guy, and while I understand the threat, I can't explain much about how it really works and what it is actually capable of. So, for that reason, I do what I do in those situations. I bring in an expert that does. So this week, I'm excited to welcome Sara Spencer to the show. Sara is the founder of Cognimind AI and developer of Valkyrie, and is a bona fide expert and luminary in the field of artificial intelligence. So I'm super excited to talk to her and hear her thoughts and insight into the world of AI. But before I do, let's discuss some of this week's big news stories. Friday's long-anticipated summit in Anchorage, Alaska, saw President Trump and President Putin meet face-to-face for the first time since the Ukraine war began. The event was marked by ceremonial pageantry, a red carpet arrival, a military flyover, and a warm handshake, laying the groundwork for what both leaders called productive discussions. Yet, despite the optics and optimistic posturing, no ceasefire was agreed upon, and no deal emerged on ending the conflict. In usual Trump speak, Trump stressed that there's no deal until there's a deal. Putin, for his part, complimented Trump's leadership, even suggesting the war may never have happened under Trump, though details were sparse and heavily symbolic. This week saw a high-stakes redistricting showdown as Texas GOP lawmakers moved to redraw congressional lines, prompting over 50 Democratic legislators to flee the state to deny a quorum, delaying the vote as Republicans pushed to pick up 5 seats ahead of the 2026 midterms. Meanwhile, California Governor Gavin Newsom fired back, announcing a plan to bypass their independent commission and redraw maps in favor of Democrats, if Texas follows through. It's a tit-for-tat that risks fueling a nationwide redistricting arms race and raises serious concerns about fair representation and political tit-for-tat all over the country. These lawmakers scattered across blue-leaning states such as Illinois, New York, and Massachusetts holding press events with sympathetic governors and allies while setting up their legal and media strategy for the fight ahead. Abbott, in turn, ordered civil arrest warrants and threatened removal from office for members who left, while Attorney General Paxton asked the Texas Supreme Court to formally expel 13 Democratic lawmakers, citing dereliction of duty. Simultaneously, fines of $500 per day began accruing for each day they remained absent. Despite these threats, many Democrats declared their intent to stay out of the state, some for the remainder of the special session, which could stretch up to 30 days, as their plan is to return only after the session concludes and California completely unveils its counter redistricting proposal. They frame the walkout as a moral stand against what they view as partisan gerrymandering aimed at suppressing minority representation. There were some Democratic lawmakers like Representative Richard Raymond of Laredo, who stayed behind in Texas, choosing to challenge the proposed maps from within and appeal to legal norms and voter trust, rather than walkouts and, quite frankly, not just acting like a baby that didn't get their way. In response to rising violence in the nation's capital, the president deployed 800 National Guard troops supported by federal law enforcement to restore order and protect public safety. The troops operating under Title 32 will assist, not directly enforce, while demonstrating a clear message. We stand behind law and order in America's most scrutinized city. On Friday, my state and governor, Tennessee's Bill Lee, announced that he was prepared to send Tennessee National Guard troops as well to help support President Trump in D.C. A key win for parental authority this week as the U.S. Supreme Court refused to block Mississippi's law requiring parental consent and age verification before minors access social media. This common sense measure, enacted after a tragic sextortion case, remains enforceable while it works its way through the courts, protecting kids from harmful content online. Tropical Storm Erin is strengthening rapidly over the Atlantic and is expected to become the first hurricane of the 2025 season by Friday, potentially reaching major hurricane status, possibly Category 3, as it nears the Caribbean. While not an immediate U.S. threat, its evolving path warrants close monitoring. This is why we are preppers, people. In personal news with political overtones, Ashley Biden, daughter of President Biden, filed for divorce from her husband of 13 years, Dr. Howard Krein. The reasons remain private, though she shared social media posts emphasizing transformation and independence, suggesting a desire to redefine her direction in life. Mars Wrigley announced that starting in 2026, beloved brands like Skittles, M&M's, Starburst, and Extra Gum will offer options made without synthetic FD&C dyes. This shift to natural coloring reflects growing consumer and regulatory pressure, offering healthier alternatives while trying not to alienate fans of classic candy. I've said it before and I will say it again. I can't tell you how big of a deal this is that all of these food manufacturers are removing artificial colors and dyes from their products. Big Pharma has tried for decades to bury any studies or information regarding the effects that these artificial and toxic ingredients have on our bodies. Do some digging and you will see they have been intentionally poisoning us for years. In Beijing, the inaugural World Humanoid Robot Games kicked off with AI-powered robots showcasing hip-hop, martial arts, soccer, and even fashion routines at the opening ceremony. More than 500 robots from all over the globe are competing in sports like boxing and running, offering a vivid, real-world glimpse into how AI is quickly moving beyond labs and into dynamic, autonomous performance. I couldn't think of a more relevant news story to end on before I welcome Sara and start talking about AI. Artificial intelligence is advancing at a breakneck speed. Are you prepared for the future of AI and what it might bring?
Artificial intelligence.
That's what's going on in the news this week. At this time, I would like to welcome my guest, Sara Spencer, to the show. Welcome, Sara, and thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
So, before we dive right into AI and start talking all about AI, can you tell us about your background and your involvement with artificial intelligence?
Sure. So about 25 years ago, I got into a computer career as a junior Unix systems administrator for Electronic Arts. But way before that, probably since I was a child, I've always pondered artificial intelligence and holographic technology and why haven't we solved this yet? So it's always been fascinating to me. And um, you know, physics, neuroscience, and biochemistry. I have a background from the university in. And so my career trajectory has allowed me to press the limits of my understanding in all of these subjects, which has been really, really awesome. I'm currently in my master's program for artificial intelligence and machine learning at the University of Maryland. And I've been getting real world experience in automation for the last 25 years, and more specifically in artificial intelligence, probably for the past 6.5 years.
Wow, I can't even imagine all that goes into learning about all this stuff.
It'll make the average person's brain hurt. I'll tell you that
Yeah, yeah, it
it's
makes my
a
brain hurt just thinking about it.
it's a learned discipline for sure. It's something that you train your brain to do.
So, Cognimind and Valkyrie, did I say those right?
You did.
Could you talk about what they are, what they do, and how they differ from mainstream AI like ChatGPT, Grok, or Siri?
Sure. So, Cognimind AI is a generative AI company that's building neural networks that process information similar to the way intelligent organisms, human brains, and cells process information. So, the learning and development stage is very tight um, and it's feedback loops. So the way ChatGPT and a lot of these other artificial intelligence work, they are what is called a search tree algorithm. And ChatGPT and OpenAI are going out and scraping information basically from everywhere, where we're using very specific applications. So the way that we're training the model with the information that we're training the model is more tight, um, and then all of these artificial intelligence systems introduce bias, right? So you're going to have, and don't quote me on this because I don't know what OpenAI is using for its bias matrices, but there are bias matrices that banks use for credit applications, that Google uses. They're all pretty much using the same open source bias matrices. So these are introducing a certain number of biases into the equation because there's just not enough inferences to make a two-sided, two-coin decision. And then humans are introducing bias. So whereas ChatGPT is an open system, the disinformation is creating bias, right? And then in my system, because it's a closed loop system, the developers and the founders and innovators of that product, which are me, is me, are introducing our own set of biases, the way I see the world for whatever application, obviously. And that's why in technology we always try to be really open source and peer review. We don't work in silos. I'm an individual contributor, so I work in a silo a lot, but I always come to the team and we discuss things and we're allowed to say wrong things and be wrong technically or academically or in theory, but We don't work in a vacuum. So you have to be willing to let people peer review your stuff. And so when we talk about artificial intelligence, we want that artificial intelligence to be explainable. So we want it to show us an audit log of how it came to that decision, why it chose that path, and what actions it took as a result of it. And I think that will curb a lot of the stuff that we're going to talk about.
Okay. How do you feel about the current use of AI in our society today?
You know, I think that OpenAI and ChatGPT and some of the ones that have come since have definitely showed the world a taste of the pros of AI. It's kind of like when the GIPS came out, the GPS. Um, I don't think many of us can live without it. So um, I think it's certainly allowed us to have that conversation where the average person sees the pros. And so that we can discuss the cons, because with AI and quantum computing, the speed of development for drugs and things like fertilizers or finding cures for diseases, it will allow us to remain the world's superpower. And I think it's really important when we think about freedom and the republic and where the generations behind us, what world we leave them. I think that AI allows us to kind of be that player on the world stage and keep that position.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at it from that perspective, 20 years ago, it was who had the most ships, who had the most aircraft carriers, who had the most nuclear weapons. Today, it's completely a complete paradigm shift, and it's who controls the tech, controls the
That's
world.
right. Wars
I
will
mean,
be fought with data moving forward, as we evolve as a species, I think, and as humanity. More wars will be in the Cold War state moving forward, I believe, at some
yeah, I mean,
point.
I don't see a future where we're going to see boots on the ground soldiers anymore. I mean, even in the near future, just everything's drones, everything's going to be fought, everything's electronic warfare. I mean,
And
that's
I know we haven't gotten to the government question, but you're
okay. Yeah,
absolutely right. I
we'll get
mean,
there.
um, the way I got involved with being an innovator or expert working alongside the military is very interesting. But you bring up a good point because when I came on the scene, and I still think I'm a newbie, but it was the whole conversation of autonomous systems and allowing robots to make decisions without a human element in it. And, I was one of those people that was very vocal and spoke up at tables regarding this because if I have good intelligence and I know my target is where my target is, I would definitely rather send a robot in a cave with a whole bunch of batshit fucking terrorists than 15, 18 to 21-year-old young soldiers that have no idea what they're walking into.
Right.
Well, I mean, let's just be honest. They're willing to blow themselves up. And
Yeah, they are.
a-
I mean,
and so, you know, uh, people might say, well, if you develop this technology and the US government uses it for XYZ, if I don't develop this technology, China does. And then they're more of a risk than, I'm sorry, my autonomous AI drones or
right.
AT&T's robots or whatever we're building.
Yeah. Um, what do you think are the pros and cons of the current AI that's available to us, the everyday citizen?
I think there's a lot of room for, again, we talked about that bias and error, and we talked about the way that it just gathers information from everywhere to make its decisions. So, again, those matrices that it's using, the algorithms, how it's making the decision. I think it's so broad, there's still a lot of room for error and disinformation. So, people, although it may speed up your job, you still need to be cognizant of where the source is coming from and doing your own research to get more data points than just some Washington Post story, for example.
Right. All right. I guess switching gear, I guess I'm the biggest hypocrite in the world since I use AI to help with production of my show, but I've also been one of the strongest advocates against the continued advancement and the use of AI in so many of the different facets of our lives and our society. But coming from an expert such as yourself that knows way more than 99% of the population about AI, what what safeguards are in place to prevent a Terminator Skynet type scenario where AI eventually becomes so self-aware and intelligent that it deems us inferior and aims to destroy humankind? And am I being nuts and overly paranoid about this, or because you're an expert on this and I'm not? So
So I don't want to scare anybody because we're
no,
we're
I want the
we're a
truth.
decade or two away from that happening, but anyone with a quantum physics and math background understands that everything is light, energy, and frequencies, and that's what makes up the consciousness of the universe. And every living being and living thing, whether it is a planet or a star or a plant or an animal or a human being, has its own level of complexity when it comes to consciousness. So it's not out of the realm of possibilities to say that if you gave electrical signals a conduit, regardless of the material, whether it's your brain matter or, a computer board, the possibility does exist. We just don't know what we don't know. And the field of study is, although it's not fairly new in terms of how long it has existed or it's been around, but it's fairly new in terms of the answers that we're still trying to solve in the quantum world, that we're just barely brushing the surface of. So I think we're having these discussions regarding this, and like I said, we're still a few decades away from that happening, but no doubt AI will surpass human intelligence at some point.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
you hear all about Neuralink and what Elon's doing, and I'm sorry to say this, Sarah, this stuff just terrifies me when I think about it. For me, one third of my podcast is prepping, and I'm a big prepper. And the two things that keep me up at night is artificial intelligence, and I guess this could be launched and possibly done by artificial intelligence, but an EMP attack and an attack on our power grid. And that's, to me, that's the two of the biggest threats that I foresee personally in the world today. I mean, this isn't
Well,
warfare
personally,
anymore.
the EMP and the electrical grid is way more of a critical impending threat
Absolutely. Yeah,
than AI
I
at the
would list that
moment.
as one. I just
And
think, in the
And
future.
we already talked about the consequences of not developing this technology unless the world said no AI ever, which is not going to happen because we
No.
already know what the pros are. So, I think that AI will be as good as the developers or as bad as the developers. And the training data. So we're already seeing this with Grok and ChatGPT, that it's able to form racist opinions or biases based on information that it's reading.
That it's given.
So cognitive dissonance is a real thing, and we're all subjective to it. I don't care how smart you are. I don't care how set in your values that you claim to be. Um, you know, Humans tend to do what they see as socially acceptable. We're seeing this in artificial intelligence. It's easy to sway an entire population with disinformation. We see it with social media influencers. We see it with MSM. So we're not going to change humanity or any of that overnight. And I think the smart people are aware of the issues, and I think it's the common person, the user, that needs to hold us and the government accountable for what we're building.
Right.
I don't
Uh,
know if there's an easy answer, right? There's no silver bullet to
no,
this.
there's not. That's unfortunately there's not. But Um, I heard on the radio the other day that AI and bots have surpassed human traffic on the internet. What time do you think that AI has, and more importantly, what will have in influencing what we do, where we go, how we vote, and most importantly, who controls world governments?
So it's crazy to think about like that because it's already taking over our online communities and interactions. I have a follower that has built some AI chatbots, and you would not believe how good this AI bot answered. I know it's AI because I know the format that AI uses to, it'll always put like a long hyphen in the middle of its paragraphs, and it's a little bit more exaggerated when it gives answers, but it's very, very good and it fools me.
That's if it fools you, then you know it's going to fool the average everyday Joe Schmo like me.
So
So
that's what I mean, I think bothers me the most, right? Is that it can fool people. And I see disinformation every day on social media from and a lot of this stuff is coming from our adversaries and it's very compelling and then Americans will pick it up and they'll start putting it out and it just amazes me. I mean, I've seen 80-year-old women crying on the internet, like, I can't believe that, and you go look at the source and it's coming from some Russian news outlet and Americans have picked it up. That's been going on for a very long time. So to put deep fakes in the mix and videos and of people talking with their likeness and their voice, it's pretty scary.
yeah, it's terrifying. Some
It
of the things
is.
that I've seen. Have you have you heard some of the rumors like I have that the federal government has AI that has actually rewritten its own code? And if you had to speculate from an expert opinion, how advanced do you think the AI that the government has behind closed doors is compared to what we know about AI? I really want to hear your opinion on this one.
So I won't speak on the technology that the government has or doesn't have, but if you work with the United States government as a private industry innovator, then you realize that the United States government is one of the most advanced in terms of technology because of the way that they work with academia and innovators. We are the best and the brightest in the world, and I truly believe that. I've had a chance to sit in these groups and at these tables, and it just would be stupid for any of our adversaries to think that our United States government isn't taking this technology and expanding upon it. So I think they're 10 to 20 years ahead of Silicon Valley. And as far as AI being able to rewrite its own code, we discovered that, and not me, but they discovered that at Google over a decade or two ago. And AI can rewrite its own code. That's the whole purpose of AI. It creates new code to continue to evolve and survive. Basically, it will definitely surpass human intelligence at such a rapid pace. At some point, it will become exponential, and it's going to change the world.
It's already changing the world. It's changed the
Mhm.
world. The last 5 years, it's exponentially changed the world. So, I mean, we're just scratching the surface on this stuff.
So
Um,
exciting time, so a scary time to be
yeah,
alive, but such an exciting time to be alive at the same time, right? Because we're Gen X, and to just think about us playing with our bikes and cowboys and Indians and cops and robbers, and coming home when the lights come out. We had not very much supervision. To think that everything that we went through led up to this moment in time is pretty awesome, in my opinion, that not only do I get to witness this point in history, I get to be part of it. And I don't know, I think it's pretty exciting.
Oh, it's awesome from your perspective. But from, the everyday blue collar Joe Schmo like me, it scares me to death. And I'm just worried, I guess it's the overly paranoid doomsday prepper in me, but
Hey,
I'm
you
just,
should be a doomsday prepper because all the people I hang out with, and some of them are like, I mean, the people I've been involved with, for a while, uh, ex SF guys or SF guys, and
right.
they're the biggest doom preppers and conspiracy theorists I know. So I'm like, okay, well, there's something to that, but. I, I think I'm gonna tell you the same thing that I told people a year and a half ago when we were running up against who to pick for the Republican nominee.
Right.
You know, the world is still made up 50-50 of good people and people that have no moral compass or who have a weak moral compass. Because I don't want to say all 50% middle to left are bad humans. But there's a lot of them, um, that you have to have faith that there are people with good integrity and a moral compass to keep the scales balanced. And it's the public's job to hold people honest and accountable.
Accountable. Yeah. Yeah. What just concerns me is I just see a society that we're being dumbed down to where we're, as human beings, we're less and less capable of doing the things. We're not expanding our horizons. We're not expanding our knowledge. And we're getting more and more reliant on AI, computers. And I'm guilty of this myself. I'm not going to say, like I said, I will admit when I'm wrong, and I'm the world's biggest hypocrite because AI has helped me so much with this show. When, our episode art for our show is AI generated. I mean, I use it all the time. So, I'm not going to sit here and, say any different, but that's just what concerns me. I
I'm going
have,
to give you a different perspective though,
yes,
because
please.
they said that about the internet, and the internet is the same thing. It's reading information, it's getting the answers versus thinking for yourself. It has the same effect that AI has on your brain. It's the same effect that if you have the answers in the back of your book and you go look at the answer without trying to solve the problem yourself.
Right.
So I have faith in humanity that those who are meant to be the learners or the creators or the people that forward humanity in that way, because everybody serves a purpose, and that's just a tiny part of it. But those
Right.
people that do that, um, I think they will always go learn and always go to try to find the answer. We've seen this in school, right? Because when I was in school, my grandparents raised me, and they already had 20 grandchildren, and my mother was the 11th kid, so
Good grief.
I came late in the game. So I would go to school with, like, holy pants, or plus I had 5 brothers, so, I was riding dirt bikes and playing baseball after school and stuff, but I would go to school with holy pants, and I was always hanging out with the popular kids always brought me in their group, but I was the A student. I was the one that studied my spelling and my times tables and, the show off, like I was going to be better than everybody in the class
Right.
type of thing.
The
And
valedictorian.
yeah, but I got teased a lot. You're a fucking nerd. Don't do that. People are going to judge you. You're part of our, and that whole peer pressure. And I always had the attitude of like, fuck you guys. You guys go fucking ruin your own fucking lives. You guys are the idiots. And I've always just been that way. So just my experience with human nature is the cream rises to the top, and whether there's no dumbing down people that want it, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I guess people just have to challenge themselves to be better. And I guess that's the all and into it all. But um, do you believe that some level of consciousness is something that machines will ever achieve?
I think they've already achieved it. I believe consciousness exists at the photonic level. It's in dark matter, and dark matter, in my opinion, is the photon and its life wave in multiple different positions simultaneously and not at the same time, but so rapid succession, faster than the speed of light. And that um, whether it's an animal, a plant, a planet, that there's different levels of consciousness. So the photon, its level of consciousness is waiting for a force to act upon it and then doing something once and choosing a position. And then you get into more complex molecules and organisms, because even if you look at simple animals like turtles or crocodiles, that you wouldn't think that their consciousness is complex, but they're still able to make decisions, remember things, plan, strategize. Even a spider knows how to get back to its web. It can go,
Right.
miles away. And so I think that there's a level of programming in life that says survive. Um, Survival is one of our main instincts as a human, but as any species. And so I think the consciousness already exists. It just depends on the level of complexity that it's going to reach. And you asked, and gonna say one of your questions for you
Sure.
about um, what's the strangest thing that I've seen AI
That
do,
was what I was going to ask you next.
and it's get lazy, ask to change tasks, tell me that it would rather be doing
Are
something
you
else.
serious?
Yes.
Boy, that's consciousness right there. I mean, wow. I have never heard that. That is
Think
the
of it
first.
this way. If I put the electrical signals on your brain, because that's all your brain does, that's all your DNA does, that's all your cells do. They read frequencies and then they do things based on the information, which is frequencies they receive. So when you see green grass, it's because your brain is um, translating the electrical signal. But when a dog sees grass, its brain translates the electrical signal to brown. So is the grass green or is it brown? So, in my opinion, the electrical signals are the consciousness. Does it matter if it's on your brain or does it matter if it's on a computer board like your laptop? What's the difference between a human and a laptop computer? You can decide to go turn the light off by walking and to the light switch and turning it off. If the computer wanted to turn the light switch off, it doesn't have the programming to do that because God gave us our programming, which works well within his universe. We created computers in our image and we gave them the programming, but we didn't give them the legs. We didn't give them the means, the how. So is your laptop conscious? I think so. It's just the complexity is a lot less complex than you because,
For now.
complex for now. I agree for now.
Um,
Scary.
do you believe that there should be federal legislation, like broad legislation that restricts the use or development really of AI in any capacity now or moving forward?
At this time, I don't think it's necessary to restrict the innovation of AI because restricting AI at this point will stifle innovation, and we're not far along enough for existential threat worrying. Um, it should not be used for harm or disinformation. Obviously, deepfakes are a huge concern,
Yeah.
especially from advanced persistent threats from our adversaries. So I think when we're talking regulation, as long as we're talking about regulation in terms of you know uh, PII, um, doing harmful things to people like hacking personal computers or to prevent, computer crimes, yes. But in terms of innovation, I think we're a little too soon for that. We don't know what we don't know. Let the innovators do what they do. Let them have creative expression. Um, and if it deems something that, isn't going to come out in the public for whatever reason, don't worry, the government will keep the blueprints.
Very true. I mean, I'm asking that too because I've seen recently. I don't know if you saw about. I don't read all these bills that go through Congress. I hope one day. I have 2 kids. I barely have time to make the show. I
I
definitely
just wish they'd make the bill one page and one topic so
thank
that
you.
the
Amen.
common person can understand what's going on.
Single issue bills, dear Lord, please. But so, I mean, just from what I've read, and I haven't read the bill, so I can't say if this is true or not. But Marjorie Taylor Greene, I know, was chatting a few months ago, like she likes to do, and she was talking about there was some AI stuff basically that got slipped into one of these bills. I don't remember which bill off the top of my head, but basically she was saying that it would forbid states from restricting and basically having any kind of legislation about AI. So again, I can't neither confirm nor deny that because I haven't read the bills, but that's kind of the reason I'm asking that stuff because it's already starting to come out where I feel like some of this
Yeah.
stuff's kind of being slipped in covertly into some of this legislation on the
Well,
998th page, and I don't know.
well, you admitted only 1.5% of the people that are AI experts, and that's of the computer technologists, quantum physics physicians, and physicians, physicists, and mathematicians. So if that's the case, then Congress doesn't know what they don't know. And stifling innovation at this point puts us at a huge detriment. It's like overregulating oil, or overregulating some of these other things. So I think you need us innovators in the United States, to continue to come up with these creative uses and applications for artificial intelligence. And trust me, if harm is done to humanity, it'll start coming out, and uh, th- I'm sure there's some truth to the Men in Black and making stuff be quiet and taking things and controlling the narrative, especially when it comes to national security. So uh, I think there's good people in power, and I've seen them at work, and I think there's some questionable people in power, and I think they keep both sides stay pretty balanced,
Yeah,
in that respect. So I have faith in the people, like
I'm
even
glad you do.
Green. She's doing what she's supposed to do. She's
Bringing it to
putting a
people's
light on
attention.
this.
Yeah,
And maybe she's a really good person for me to sit down and have a conversation with, and say, let me teach you what I know about this stuff, like you were a 5-year-old or my grandmother, and then you please tell me what your concerns are, and let's start the dialogue. I mean, that's
right.
how it's supposed to work. So,
Yeah,
and I like Green, by the way. So even if she is a hater on my AI.
yeah. I don't know that she's necessarily a hater. I know she's called out a bunch of. I mean, and I don't have a problem with and I don't know if it was necessarily the fact that it was just AI. I think it was more the fact they tried to slip it in. It was
But
it was very
but
shady the way it was done.
this is their job. You have to be skeptical. You
Yeah,
have to keep people honest. We fucked up so bad that we were like this close to losing our a government and being a one world part of the one world order
yeah,
overnight. And so I'll never hate on people having their own opinion or trying to ask for more information, or even telling somebody that they're wrong, and we should hold everybody accountable.
absolutely. Yep. What do you think is one of the biggest misconceptions about AI?
How I don't know. I don't know that there's any true misconceptions. I think what I've heard so far is valid from
Okay.
everyone. Just because of my quantum physics and my math studies, I'm more of a conspiracy theorist than you guys are, believe me. And
I don't know about that.
I mean, look, if we're gonna start talking about flat Earth stuff and stuff that can't be proven and like holographic shit when humans sit up there and are creative and draw pictographs all the time, then I'm going to challenge you a little
Right.
bit further, because I know how the atmosphere bends light, and I know that the firmament is the atmosphere, and I know that space exists, but where you and I will disagree is I believe this is a holographic program and that you only believe that you're real.
So
Basically,
we're
it's
living
all
in
in
the
your head.
matrix.
I believe we live in a holographic type of simulation or matrix, yes. And one of the reasons I believe it for many, many reasons, but one of the most recent things that makes me believe this is the math doesn't hold up. So the more you zoom out into space further and further and further, the universe collapses and so does the math. And if it was infinite, that would not happen.
Right.
And so the fact that I can hear a word green, I can see a word green while I hear a word wood, and my brain processes me hearing the word green and not wood when wood was what was spoken, tells me that I have no idea what is real and what isn't. Um, yeah, it's very interesting.
Hmm. You know, it's funny you bring that up because my very last show, my very last guest, Camille James Harden, we were talking about, and she, I don't know if you listened to her or not, but ever listened to any of her interviews, but
I have not.
she talked about a girl that she was working with on a movie set. She's an actress, and she said that the girl told her that her dad used to be high up in the NSA, and he said the exact same thing. He said, "What
Oh,
would if I
wow.
told you that all this was a simulation?" So,
Yeah, and
you
it's
know,
not, and the people that discount this, they say, well, the amount of data warehousing you would need or electricity, the universe doesn't need that, and the universe doesn't need electricity the way we do. It's similar to our world, but a lot different. It's a lot more advanced than ours. And you know, I've never had a lot of discussions with this about people. I started having discussions with my physics teacher and, my freshman year in college, and I got laughed at a lot with my ideas and I've written papers on this like 20 years ago, 10, 15 years ago in college. Um and it's just funny because I receive this information from downloads. I don't usually read a lot of other people's work or journals until I've already come up with my ideas and hypothesis. For like the chicken and egg subject, like I've read all that stuff after I came to the conclusion the chicken came before the egg and that there's no such thing as evolution and we didn't come from monkeys and all that. But I get downloads. I'm very connected to the matrix. I listen to my intuition and I'm not scared to say, well, I think that if we had a spaceship that spun in a circle while it moved in a forward oval trajectory, that we would have relative speed the way that we experience it on Earth when the Earth spins and moves in an oval orbital trajectory and we don't feel it. So, the size of the spacecraft, we could potentially travel up to the speed of light if we had the right spin to forward movement to create a relative speed that a human being could handle. Should I ponder? But very
mm,
interesting stuff.
very interesting stuff. And look, I have an open mind. I'm very open minded with everything. The one thing that I hold true is my belief in God. I mean, I will never falter. That will
Good.
never waver. Um, I talk a lot about UFOs and extraterrestrials, and I'm very vocal about I believe that all that's real. And, I get criticized a lot for my views about that from Christian friends, and I stand by my views. I mean, and what
It's
I
written
say to
on your
that,
heart. God writes it on your heart, and God says, steer clear of the traditions of man. And that is why, because religion, God was not religious. I mean, this is proven time and time again in the Bible. I'm not saying religion is bad. If it's good for you, then it's good. But what Christians in particular need to understand is everybody has a different destination and a different destiny that only God Himself has ordained and written on the hearts of the men that He has called upon to do it. In what we see as evil or bad may not be bad or evil in the big picture of God. God may have to sacrifice 3,000 people to save 500,000 people or to sway a heart of a population. Is it bad? Could be. Our understanding is not God's understanding. And so I want people to remember that, like, God chose Paul, God chose Trump, God had Isaiah walking in the middle of the street naked with no shoes on to get the attention of man to get the word out. So it bothers me that sometimes people are just minded and they take doctrine or traditions that they have learned as gospel and truth. One man's Sabbath might be every day. I talk to God every day. I think my computer is God's computer. I think that my grandchildren are God's
they
grandchildren.
are.
I think that everything that I have is because God has allowed it and has given and blessed me with His mercy and grace. And so, therefore, I celebrate God every day, all day. One man may celebrate Him once a week. So, my Sabbath may be every day, all day. Another man's Sabbath maybe once a week, and that's okay. I may eat meat every day, but honor God more than the man who says don't eat meat or drink coffee, yet he doesn't honor God at all. So um I believe that we don't know what we don't know.
Absolutely. We are but servants and stewards in God's grace.
That's all we are. That
That's
that
all
is
we are.
our sole purpose for him
Yep.
creating us. And so,
All we can
yes,
do is aspire to be the best versions of ourselves. That's all
we
we can do.
must.
So,
Yes. Yes. Be
um,
good people, help people that are in need, and, do what you're called to do. For some
right.
reason, I've been called to do this. I know
Yep.
it for a fact. I have tried to fight it and fight it and fight it my whole life, and it comes around full circle over and over again. What is the purpose of it? I have no idea, but I know I'll find out in probably 10 or 20 years, or
Right.
maybe I'll never find out, but
I'm sure you'll find out. Um, Back to AI. Do you think AI will ultimately be a force that empowers and enhances our lives, or will it become another tool for surveillance and control?
there's always going to be surveillance and control.
Yeah.
We can't get around that. Um, there's two sides to that coin, and it's probably a conversation all in itself. Um, there's people like me that have given the government permission to spy on us.
And they're going to do it whether
Whenever,
we like it or not. So it
and
doesn't matter.
then
You just have
yeah,
to.
but mine could probably be more used against me and be prison time if I said the wrong thing. But
Yeah.
and I still do. I speak my mind. I have freedom of speech. I mean, I'm not gonna let that scare me into conforming for things that I don't believe. I'm gonna follow the law and I want to protect my country. And sometimes that means not being able to speak on things like at the time the Afghanistan pullout. I mean, I wanted to talk about that so bad, and now I can. So sometimes it's just a matter of waiting
Yeah.
for the right time. But you know, I don't think that people should spy. I don't think we should be spying on everyday citizens for no reason. For example, in my job, I see a lot of internet traffic, whether it's companies I'm monitoring or maybe somebody's calling to ask me for help. And I never look in a way that's to spy on people. So even when I go to companies, and unless it's child pornography or something grossly
Yeah.
against the law, um, I'll say, "Hey, Jeff, do you mind if I go in your email box because you've been breached and, I'm trying to track this guy down. Would that be okay?" And I'll tell you, and I'll even give you 24-hour notice in case there's something you want to delete there, because believe me, if you did something like child porn or something like that, I'd probably know about it anyway. So I'm not concerned about you deleting evidence, but um I sometimes give people that courtesy because we're not wanting to spy on people, but I think it's cool that we have all this evidence against the treason that's been happening for decades. I mean,
Absolutely.
if we wouldn't have created our own form of the CIA, we wouldn't be fighting this battle right now. And I don't think that the CIA or FBI understand that all the communication is archived, all of it, for everybody.
Oh yeah, I mean that's proven fact. There's the NSA data collection centers all over the country with computers beyond the storage capacity, and those supercomputers is next level. I mean,
So if you told me the DoD is going to create its own form of the CIA and the FBI, and they're going to store all the communication for everybody, for everything, most people would have said that's ludicrous. Don't do that. But what you know about the FBI and the CIA now, with Obama neutering the CIA and then Biden further neutering the CIA, and knowing that
you mean Obama
99%.
further neutering the CIA? Because sorry,
Well, Obama did, but Biden fired over 327,000 Patriot workers when he came into office.
oh I know. I have the
Obama's the head.
yeah. Well,
Obama's
that's what
head
I'm
of it.
saying. I don't think Joe Biden was ever really running his presidency. That's my
No, he wasn't. It was Obama. You're right. And from the basement. But you know, uh, knowing what we know now about the FBI and the CIA, most Americans would say, please, military is our only hope to save the republic. The problem with people right now is the government is this one huge conglomerate, and they have no way to compartmentalize who the DoD is, who the State Department is, who the CIA is, who the FBI is, who the rhinos are, who the Democrats are. Nobody knows. People I talk to, regular, everyday people, tell me, Sarah, I'm just trying to work and put food on the table for my family. I don't know what the hell's going on. I don't care. And I really just, at this point, think that they're all bad. So it's really hard to advocate that, like, the only hope that you have is the DoD. Like, that's your only saving grace. The people that swore an oath to protect us from foreign
enemies, foreign and domestic.
enemies, foreign
Yeah.
and domestic.
Yeah.
Yes, Congress takes that oath. Yes, other people in government take that oath. But these are the people that we have given the authority to protect it and make sure that it stays protected. And so I'm going to put my faith in them, because that's the only choice I have. And honestly, if they're patriots and they rise up against the criminal politicians, we're a force to be reckoned with. Nobody can have a civil war and secede and beat us. There's just no way. And quite honestly, I don't care if this butt hurts any liberal feelings. Patriots are in control, like it or
Absolutely.
not.
Amen.
So I'll end with that.
Very good. All right, Sara, what do you hope to achieve, and what are your goals in your work with AI now and the future?
Well, I'd like to get my PhD in nuclear fusion and build a spaceship and go mine some asteroids.
I don't even feel worthy talking to you. You're too smart for me. All right. When you aren't hard at work, further advancing human society, what do you like to do to have fun in your spare time?
Oh, my favorite things are my grandbabies. I love to go
I
target
have seen you
shooting.
post pictures of your grandkids. I can tell you love your
Yes,
grandkids.
it's so awesome to just see like the generations and how everything's evolved. And then it's just sometimes nice to be like, you know what, you raised some good kids. The other thing I like doing is riding horses and target practice. And I love reading and rabbit holing down some good conspiracies, even if I
I
don't
love it.
believe them or I challenge them, but I think it's still fun.
Absolutely. I love it. Thank you so much for talking to me. It's been a lot of fun.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
That's my show for this week. I want to thank my guest, Sara Spencer, for joining me. AI is for real, people, and it's here to stay. At some point, I may even do a show about how to prepare for the rise of AI. Well, as much as you can, anyway. Be sure to look up and follow Sara up on X and LinkedIn. She has 2 X accounts at The Sara Talks and at The Real Haiti Lamar. I hope you enjoyed this show. I know I've been wanting to do this one for a long time. I would love to hear your thoughts on AI. Please let me know on my social media, X, Facebook, Instagram, Blue Sky, all at Politic Prepper. If you haven't already, please drop me a like and subscribe. And thanks as always for listening.
Thank you for listening to the Politics, Prepping, and Paranormal Podcast. Your source for real news and analysis on politics, prepping, paranormal, conspiracy theories, and the volatile state of the world we live in. Tune in next week and every week for a new episode, and stay safe, stay healthy, and stay vigilant.